Okay, so in part one of the video for my G3 MK5, we did a lot of work on the stock to get it trimmed to the correct length and to mount the end cap in. Now, all we got to do, the end cap is been sitting overnight. It's nice and secured in there. The epoxy's all dry. It sunk to the bottom. We had a nice wad of epoxy in there. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, as you can see, I put the temporary epoxy around here to keep it from leaking out. That's also hardened up, so we're probably going to have to sand that away because, as you can see, this doesn't quite go in there. That epoxy is inhibiting it from sliding in freely. So we're going to go ahead and take a sanding drum off of the Dremel here, and we're just going to go around and remove that epoxy. It comes off fairly easily. You just use that and then sand it right off. Okay, so we're done sanding around here. I just used a sanding drum, sanded this off. I just kind of beveled the edges a little bit here, smoothed out the epoxy, pretty much completely got rid of the epoxy on this bottom piece. That's what was inhibiting it from sliding in. Just did that the whole way around, and you can see it slides in nice and flush now, pretty securely. That's not going to bend anywhere. I mean, that's pretty solid once I put the push pins in there. So that looks pretty good. I smoothed out the edges a little bit, just put a little bit of curve onto it, just make it a little bit more contoured, but it's probably all the better I'm going to do with it for that part. So now what I'm looking at here is I have this piece here that looks a little bit off. I'm just going to kind of keep this line the same, so I'm probably going to go ahead and start sanding that off just to kind of level it out. I'm just going to take a sanding drum and I'm going to try to get that smoothed out as much as possible. So now I'm just finishing up, just sanding this off, kind of hitting it at an angle. I don't want to get too much with it, but kind of giving an example of what I'm doing here. Now I'll just kind of round it out a little, kind of make it fit along there. I might take that corner a little bit smoother. So yeah, you just want to get that nice and smoothed out. Looks a little bit better, a little bit more contoured going up through there. Maybe just a tad bit more. Just want those lines to just look proper. That looks a little bit better. I think I like that. Now I'm just going to have to go ahead and touch that up with a little bit finer sandpaper. Just kind of smooth it out a little bit more to match the plastic. So I'll just work on that and I'll get right back to you guys. Okay, so I got done just smoothing that out, sanding that off. Everything's looking pretty good. Everything lines up fairly decently. Looking a little bit more flush and fits the A5 fairly well. Now it's pretty much ready. I just gotta paint it, so I'll just put a coat of paint on. But before I do that, I don't think I need to paint the whole thing. I might just have to clean it a little here, just get some of these spots off. But I'm only just gonna paint the section I worked on here, this white. So I don't want to paint the inside because that's what goes inside the gun. I don't want it too tight of a fit. If you put coats of paint on there, it's going to fit way too tight. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape that off. And I'm just going to tape off any of the parts that I don't want paint on. So that's one of the parts. Just going to put a little layer of tape there. And I'm just going to wrap a layer around this side as well. Get this So that's pretty good right there. I'm just marking off the areas that are I don't want paint splattered. Might wrap another. This is just some crappy duct tape I had. It's not really good stuff. I guess it's duct tape and not duct tape, but apparently these are different in quality, so I just use it kind of as masking tape or anything like that. You could use something that comes off easily. Now the paint that I like to use, Brownells sells some paint called Gun Coat. This stuff is called baking lacquer. These are actually made for firearms. I prefer the Gun Coat. At the time I ordered this, they didn't have Gun Coat and they substituted just baking lacquer. But this stuff is firearms grade paint. Once it goes on, it's really hard to get off. You basically have to chisel it off. Any kind of solvents, gun cleaners, that kind of thing doesn't really affect it. So I like to use this on my paintball markers. That way I make sure that it never comes off. So I'm going to go ahead and take this outside. We're going to paint this area and we'll let it dry, and it should look pretty good. And that'll be pretty much it for the stock, and we'll show you the final product here in a moment. Okay, so now we're back. I just finished painting up the stock. It's been drying for the last 15 minutes or so. It's not completely dry, but it's dry enough just to kind of demonstrate for the end of this video what it'll be looking like. So everything's nice and black, blends in, so fits in real nice and secure, and it's gonna look pretty good on the back of this marker. So that's it for the stock. Pretty much done with that. So the next part I'm going to be working on is the rear sight, and I have a little bit different thing in store for that. So it's still going to be the drum sight, but I'm going to try to increase the height on it, and we'll be talking about that in the next installment of the video, which should be a fairly short video as well, just because it's not too much work on the rear sight. Alright, thanks.